All right. Well, I made a video earlier today about Billy Joe Saunders testing positive for auxiliary and how there's a discrepancy with WADA and WADA about the drug. Now, WADA, basically what they do is they do the testing, and all they do is report back to the commission whether a substance on the WADA list has been detected. So auxiliary was detected. Now the problem is WADA has what's called an in-competition ban list and an out-of-competition ban list. And WADA, under the WBC clean boxing program, the WBC has stated that if you're signed up for that program, the clean boxing program by the WBC, then you're going to be tested in competition and out of competition. And if you test positive for a banned substance, regardless of in or out, you're going to come up positive for a test and you're going to be in trouble. You'll be pulled from fights, supposedly. So they say. But the WBO, which is interesting to me, is they did not have that clean boxing program in place. So they're not mandated to have their fighters use WADA. They don't mandate their fighters to use WADA. So that's pretty interesting. But both fighters did decide to use WADA. So they they went along with the protocol for WADA. But WADA doesn't make the determination, or they don't determine the punishment of the fighter. It's up to the commission to really do that, and the sanctioning body. So the sanctioning body had a problem with Billy Joe Saunders testing positive for that substance. And also the commission, Massachusetts State Athletic Commission, has a policy that is zero tolerance, regardless, just like the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Even if you take something inadvertently, you didn't know you took it, whatever, something that's a banned substance is in your system, regardless of why, then they're going to suspend you, and you're not going to be able to fight. And the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission is the same way. Now, what happens if these fighters don't agree to be tested by WADA? Then the commissions really have no way of knowing what's going on. But since the fighters agree to use WADA, and WADA is reporting to the sanctioning body as well as the commission their findings, then the commission and the sanctioning body are well within their rights to use the testing data and make a determination that they feel is just. And if they have a zero tolerance policy, like the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission does and the Nevada State Athletic Commission does, then they're going to take those findings and they're going to use them as evidence against the fighter. And they're well within their right to cancel the fight and suspend the fighter if they want to. Now, the California State Athletic Commission is a little bit different, because there's been fighters that tested positive for clenbuterol, and they used the meat excuse for clenbuterol, and they were still allowed to fight. So that's up to the commission how they want to enforce the rules. If they want to, accept that, it was inadvertent due to consumption of meat, the WBC has gone along with it as well in certain situations when the fight was in California. But in this instance, the commission, if they don't allow the fighter to get a license, then the fighter can't fight. So he was not going to be allowed a license regardless. And in the case with Canelo, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they were going to suspend Canelo for 6 months, so he could not fight for 6 months. So the commission supersedes everybody. The sanctioning body, WADA, whatever you want to call. whatever you want to call it, however you want to present it. But the problem is, why would WADA have two separate sets of lists? Really? I mean, just like the whole meldonium thing. They banned the drug, but then they had a window where if you used it, you'd be okay, that you wouldn't be disqualified to fight. It wouldn't be considered a failed test. Then they had a specific level, and then after a certain date, you couldn't have any amount in your system. So WADA is their own biggest enemy here, because they can't get their story straight. Like, they have all these stipulations, all these different rules for different substances. And I know, substances are different and they're not all the same, but if you have a list of stimulants, then why would you allow someone to take them during training to get the benefits of the stimulants during training? And then if their opponent's not taking that stimulant, then they're going to be at a disadvantage, because, as I said earlier, what happens on fight night is more or less a direct reflection of what happened in training camp. So if you're able to train at a high level, getting the benefits of the drugs that you're taking, then you're gaining an advantage, okay? And possibly, in my opinion, an unfair advantage if the other guy's not taking the drug. And then the argument could be, well, he could take the drug too. But what if someone doesn't want to put substances in their body? They just want to be 100% clean. They don't want to mess around with this stuff. It's their choice to do that. But WADA needs to just have one list and say, this is banned and that's it. Because Xilofren is, I don't know too much about it, but it's, very similar to ephedra. And I know ephedra is a very strong substance. And I know that's, is a very, very great fat burner, great stimulant, great bronchodilator, and it provides a great advantage. So this is in the ephedra family. These are all precursors to amphetamines, a lot of these stimulants. So this stuff's pretty potent. So you're allowing the fighter to basically, even a week out, 2 weeks out, you're allowing a fighter to be able to use a stimulant like that is very potent, and to think that that's not going to carry over come fight night, the benefits of using that stimulant in training, is very naive of WADA. So once again, I think they dropped the ball. They need to just have, banned substance. You can't use them at all. No in competition, no time frame where a drug's legal and then you make it illegal and have all these different allowable amounts. I mean, clenbuterol is a banned substance. You can't have any amount in your system. But now these certain stimulants you're allowed to have, a certain amount that's allowable. Now, in the instance of if someone's taking a cold medicine and they can provide the cold medicine that they're taking, like pseudoephedrine is a derivative of ephedra, it's much weaker or whatever, then that, I can understand exceptions for that. The fighter's sick and, he was taking, pseudoephedrine, and he can get a note from the doctor saying he was sick. He had a condition where he needed to take the medicine that had the pseudoephedrine in it. But once again, pseudoephedrine is nowhere near auxiliofren, because auxiliofren is banned in the United States, can't be used in anything. Okay, ephedra is banned. The real ephedra is banned in everything, can't be used in anything. So pseudoephedrine is a very, very lesser derivative of ephedra, and they put like 5 milligrams of the stuff in, like Sudafed and stuff like that. So it's not really going to do much, to be quite honest with you. But again, if that shows up and someone pops hot for stimulant because they're taking that, they could just provide the medicine and show that the doctor prescribed them with an illness and they needed to take it. Billy Joe Saunders allegedly was using it in a nasal spray, auxiliofren. As I said in the earlier video, I've never seen auxiliofren in a nasal spray before. I've seen it in fat burners and supplements and stuff like that. And doctors prescribe it for people who have low blood pressure till it raises their blood pressure. But I've never seen it in the nasal spray. But because it is a bronchodilator, the nasal spray will open up, the bronchial tubes, help open up the bronchial tubes. So once again, why is Billy Joe Saunders using a nasal spray in training camp? Is he sick? Didn't say he was sick. Why would he be using that? And once again, provide the nasal spray, which he has failed to do. And then when the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission asks you questions, you don't tell them to go fuck off like you did. So WADA, I think, needs to just be a little bit more clear and concise and not have all these different stipulations and all these different lists and these amounts. If you're going to ban something, ban it. Just ban it. Across the board. In competition, out of competition. Because again, not to be repetitive here, but the greatest benefits of using these drugs is the longer you use them and the more you use them throughout training camp, the better you're going to be conditioned to come fight night. So if you don't use the drug, if you're using the drug, all the way up until the day before the fight, and then the day of the fight, you stop using it, you've gained all the benefits of that drug for a full training camp. So let's talk about what this in competition refers to. So in competition refers to the period commencing 12 hours before a competition in which the athlete is scheduled to participate through the end of the competition and the sample collection process related to the competition. So that's what in competition is. So in competition is essentially, you can't take it the day of the fight, but you can take it for 8 weeks or 7 weeks and 6 days before the fight. So say you didn't take it the whole training camp, okay? You get a little bit of advantage, but you're not going to get the same advantage as if you took it 7 weeks and 6 days. What's more of an advantage? Taking it in that long period of time or just taking it the day of the fight? So what's the sense of having a policy like that? It's ridiculous. So I'm highly critical of WADA for making this whole thing confusing. Billy Joe Saunders is going to take this to the Supreme Court, and they're going and because of WADA, okay, this is going to be a little bit complicated, possibly. I don't think he's going to win because it's up to the commission to determine whether or not they want to license the fighter. And he did sign up for WADA testing, and like I said, WADA, they just test for substances that are on the list. Okay, there is no in competition and not a competition in the WADA WBC clean boxing program. You can't test positive for anything at any time as long as you're signed up in that program. Now the WBO, like I said, the argument that Billy Joe Saunders is going to make is the WBO does not have that policy in place, but the WBO did decide to take the WADA results, and also they looked at what the commission decided to do, and they were well within their rights to suspend Billy Joe Saunders for 6 months. And then now they're saying that Billy Joe Saunders vacated his title. He was going to get stripped anyways. So regardless of or not if he vacated, he was going to get stripped. So he's just trying to have the one up on everybody. This is like a little spoiled brat who's taking his ball and wants to go home. He's not being, taking accountability for his actions. And again, I'm going back to the Canelo situation. Canelo was upset. He was mad, but he did not direct any anger towards the Nevada State Athletic Commission, did not direct any anger towards the WBC. He took it out on Golovkin and Abel Sanchez because they were talking smack. They were criticizing him, but he took his punishment like a man. He didn't sue anybody. He didn't complain. He apologized. and he moved on. Billy Joe Saunders doesn't want to take accountability for this. He's not producing the nasal spray, so he's got no leg to stand on. The only thing he's going to use is this WADA code. And if WADA didn't have this stupid in competition, out of competition, then there would be no argument. And don't sign up for WADA if you don't want to be tested the whole camp. If you just wanted to worry about being tested the day of the fight, before and after the fight on the day of the fight, then you shouldn't have signed up for WADA. That's your fault. And WADA just makes, the waters even muddier because of this stupid in competition rule that they have. So let me know what you guys think. I just wanted to clear up the in competition thing. So basically, it's 12 hours. You can't take some of these substances you can't take 12 hours before the fight, but you can take them 7 weeks and 7 days before the event. All that time, gaining the benefit all throughout the camp, and you just can't take it the day of the fight. How fucking stupid is that? Especially for a stimulant that is as potent as this substance is. Guys, I don't know what else I could say, how much more I can talk about this, but I just wanted to bring this up, kind of clear the air about the in competition, out of competition, because a lot of people are confused. They're asking me questions. WADA said it's allowed. It's only illegal the day of the fight. But, the commission makes the final decision. Okay? And the sanctioning body, it goes commission, then sanctioning body. Because if you're not going to be allowed to fight, if the commission decides we're not going to allow you to fight in our state, then a couple things can happen. The sanctioning body can give you a pass on it if they decide they want to, which the WBC has done, as I said, in California with certain fighters that tested positive for clenbuterol. They got a pass. Francisco Vargas, I think, was one of them, and the fight was allowed to go on in California because the excuse was accepted. Now Vegas didn't. Like I said, Vegas and Massachusetts, zero tolerance. They don't care. They don't care if someone friggin' mugged you and tied you down and forced shit in your mouth, and you had no control over your body, and you couldn't stop them from shoving friggin' clenbuterol or auxiliafrin or anything down your throat. No, regardless of how it gets there, if someone friggin' gives you a shot and doesn't tell you what's in it, and they're shooting you up with a steroid, if it's in your system and they find out about it and they get a positive test is reported to them, you don't fight. They don't take any excuse. That's zero tolerance policy. So a lot of these states have it. Not all of them do. But Massachusetts and Nevada are two states that do. If you're going to fight in those states, doesn't matter. They're going to supersede everyone. Doesn't matter what WADA says. Doesn't matter what the WBO says. Now, if the WBO decided they didn't want to strip them, and they decided, okay, you can still fight, but we'll move the fight out of the state and fight into a state that doesn't have zero tolerance policy. But more often than not, a lot of these commissions are going to follow suit with a commission that if Nevada decides, hey, you know what, we're going to suspend you, these other commissions will follow suit. Massachusetts isn't a real big commission, but I mean, this is a big fight. I mean, other commissions get word of what happened. They very well could say, we're not going to give you a license either until you complete your suspension. So this is where we are, guys. This is what the in competition means. I'm totally against in competition, out of competition. I think there should just be, one standard rule, and it would take away all this confusion. So this is what Billy Joe DeSantis' defense is going to be. He's going to pull this WADA code up. He's going to take it to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court is going to say, hey, you know what? It's up to the state commission to decide whether you are going to fight in their state or not. It's up to the sanctioning body to decide whether they want to strip you or not. And the sanctioning body was going to strip you, and the state did not want to give you a license to fight. You got no leg to stand on, brother. Okay? in the whole scheme of things, WADA is at the bottom of the totem pole here when it comes to who holds the most weight in deciding who's what fighter's going to fight or not. They don't make the decisions either. Okay. So guys, that's all I got for you. Let me know what you think. Any opinions or any questions? Just leave them in the comment section, and we can have a discussion offline if you want as well. Hey, what's up, Corey? Yep, Halatov says whatever he used, he should have checked it first. I agree. The in-competition rule is a non-rule, meaning its only use is to give the impression of oversight to the impressionable when they really don't want to catch anyone because it will mess up profit. Very, very excellent point, Dwayne M. in the chat. That is 100% spot on, my friend. The question has to be asked, what other PEDs are there with this? Are they this lax with? I'm sorry. Is AJ with WADA? No, AJ is not with WADA. WADA is not a WADA. Just they're just an entity that has a banned substance list, and WADA, and USADA use that list to determine what substances are banned and what aren't banned. But interestingly enough, the UFC allows USADA to take precedence. Like in other words, USADA takes precedence over the punishment for the UFC. So if USADA, if an athlete in UFC tests positive from USADA, USADA is the one that actually hands down the punishment. That's the contract they have with USADA, and the commission as well. The commission usually would make a determination how if they want to suspend a fighter too. But USADA, they allow USADA to come up with the punishments in the UFC. But boxing does not have that same situation. The commission decides what they want to do, and it's not up to the drug testing agency, because VADA is nonprofit anyways, supposedly. So that's where we're at here, man. That's where we're at. So different strokes for different folks. It's all about what state you're fighting in. It's all dependent upon what the sanctioning body wants to do, because we've seen the WBC be very inconsistent with the enforcement of this WBC clean boxing program. Because I already mentioned that fighters that were tested positive for clenbuterol are allowed to fight in California, and who knows if Canelo and Golovkin, that fight was in the Staples Center in California, if Canelo would have been suspended. Who knows? They may have accepted his excuse. They did it with Francisco Vargas. Why wouldn't they do it with Canelo Alvarez? So it all depends on where the fight is. So if this fight was in the UK and it wasn't in Massachusetts, in my opinion, there would be a 99% chance the fight would be happening. So it is what it is. All right, guys. Once again, peace out. Have a great night. And see you soon. Till the next one. Have a great night. Beebs out. Peace.